Reading the headlines for this hour on VTV News, Vietnam, Cambodia promote relations. And obstacles in work permit procedures to be resolved. In our news, the United Nations launches global roadmap to end hunger.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Prime Minister Phie hosted a welcome ceremony in Hanoi on Monday for his Cambodian counterpart Samdech Moha Bovo Tipade Hun Manet, who is paying an official visit to Vietnam. The two leaders held important talks after the ceremony.
Prime Minister Phie warmly welcomed Prime Minister Hun Manet as it is his first visit to an ASEAN country. The Vietnamese leader congratulated his counterpart on being elected as vice president of the Cambodian People's Party. Prime Minister Phie emphasized that Vietnam always respects and gives high priority to the good neighbor and traditional friendship, comprehensive cooperation, and long-term and sustainable relations with Cambodia. For his part, Prime Minister Hun Manet expressed his joy at his first official visit to Vietnam in his new position. He affirmed that the visit aims to inherit and continue to promote the traditional relationship of solidarity, friendship, and comprehensive cooperation between the two countries to new heights. The two leaders expressed their satisfaction with the positive developments of Vietnam-Cambodia relations in different areas. They also discussed major directions to strongly promote Vietnam-Cambodia cooperation in the coming time. Accordingly, the two sides agreed to increase high-level exchanges, effectively promote important cooperation mechanisms between the two governments, enhance connections and exchanges between youth and young leaders, and jointly organize practical activities to celebrate the 45th anniversary of victory over the genocidal regime. Regarding defense and security cooperation, the two leaders agreed to continue to maintain peace and stability in each country, effectively implement cooperation plans between the two Ministries of Defense, Ministries of Public Security, and Ministries of Home Affairs, closely coordinate in border management, cross-border crimes prevention and combat, and deal with non-traditional security challenges. In addition, the two prime ministers agreed to strengthen the connection between the two economies, promote bilateral trade, especially border trade, and create conditions for investment and business cooperation activities of the two countries. Regarding border cooperation, the two leaders affirmed to complete the remaining 16% workload of border demarcation. They also agreed to increase experience sharing and cooperation in training and education for officials, as well as promote human resource cooperation, traffic connections, and tourism. Discussing regional and international issues, the two leaders emphasized the importance of maintaining peace, security, and stability in the region. They affirmed to continue to coordinate closely and support each other's positions at regional and international forums, build the ASEAN community, strengthen cooperation between the three countries of Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and foster cooperation in the management and sustainable use of Mekong River water resources. After the talks, the two prime ministers witnessed the signing of 3 cooperation documents between their ministries and agencies.
Party General Secretary Nguyen Trong received Cambodian Prime Minister Samdech Moha Bovo Tipade Hun Manet in Hanoi on December 11th. The General Secretary congratulated Cambodia on successfully organizing the 2023 parliamentary election in which Hun Manet was later elected Prime Minister of Cambodia. He recalled the historical traditions of solidarity and mutual assistance between the two parties and two countries, as well as the relationship between the parties and states of Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, which he said are valuable assets that are a source of great strength behind the revolutionary cause in each country. He proposed that the two sides effectively implement agreements reached at high levels meeting between senior leaders of Vietnam and Cambodia and between senior leaders of the three ruling parties of Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam in various fields, as well as the 20th meeting of the Vietnam-Cambodia Joint Committee. At a meeting with Cambodian Prime Minister Nguyen in Hanoi on Monday, President Võ Văn Thưởng affirmed that Vietnam values and wishes to strengthen the friendly relationship and comprehensive cooperation with Cambodia. The state president asked Cambodia to continue creating favorable conditions for Vietnamese community to do business, live, and integrate into the country. Prime Minister Nguyen applauded Vietnam's economic achievements, saying that the Cambodian government will continue to make efforts to deepen the relationship between the two countries. The two leaders agreed to promote bilateral cooperation in all fields, especially in politics, economics, tourism, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ on Monday hosted a reception for Cambodian Prime Minister Nguyen, who is in Hanoi for a two-day official visit to Vietnam. Both hosts and guests agreed that the two countries' legislative bodies should continue to cooperate closely with each other, both bilaterally and multilaterally, in sharing experiences in professional affairs, overseeing the implementations of signed agreements, and increasing the prestige of both countries. National Assembly Chairman suggested that the governments of the two countries continue to effectively implement signed agreements, especially the Vietnam-Cambodia Border Trade Agreement, in order to facilitate the import and export of goods across the border. For his part, Prime Minister Nguyen reaffirmed Cambodia's policies of strengthening relations with Vietnam. The people of Vietnam and China have interacted and exchanged with each other for thousands of years. Their desire to live together in peace, long-term stability, and mutual development has been always reflected in the two countries' senior leaders. Therefore, the affections and trust that the leaders and people of the two countries have for each other has always been a valuable access that benefits both sides.
Local residents of Bản Lầu Commune, Mường Khương District, Lao Cai Province are welcoming their Chinese neighbors who live along Ba Kit, the river that forms the natural border between Vietnam and China. The commune's villages of Cốc Phương and Na Lok Phor have built a twinning relationship with two villages of Nancy Town, Yunnan Province, China. This has contributed to enhancing the relationship between the two countries.
The four villages have a small population. We proposed the authorities of both sides to build a twinning relationship. Most of the residents in the two villages of Nanchi are Hmong people. We ask them to come and help us in wedding and funeral ceremonies. We also come and help them when they need.
Over a decade, 62 pairs of residential twinning clusters has been formed between the two countries. The relationship between the two countries is reflected through different aspects. One example is the case of conductor Đồng Quang Vinh and his wife, Mua Shuang Shuang, who is a Chinese pianist. She is fluent in Vietnamese and helps her husband manage the new Fertility Bamboo Orchestra.
Living in Vietnam for 10 years, I've had many chances to perform with my husband in diplomatic events with the support of the Vietnam Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's my honor. Vietnam is now like my second home country.
I'm grateful to the government for giving me an opportunity to study in China. There, I met my teachers and had chances to work and build relationships with many Chinese artists and orchestras.
The close bond between Vietnam and China has been strengthened for the people and generations of leaders. President Ho Chi Minh was a great friend of Chinese people. In June 1955, he passed through Hữu Nghị Border Gate to officially visit China. Now, 68 years later, General Secretary Nguyen Trong planted a tree at the border gate with a desire to maintain and promote the good relationship between the two countries.
No countries sharing the same border in this world name their border gate as friendship. But Vietnam and China did. It's significant to our relationship.
Vietnam-China relations have always been close. The traditional friendship between the two countries has been built and nurtured by senior leaders. It is a valuable asset that the two peoples need to continue protecting and promoting in the future.
NVIDIA wishes to establish a base in Vietnam and views the Southeast Asian nations as its new home, according to its president and CEO Jen Huang. He said on Monday that the company will expand its partnership with Vietnam top tech firms and support the Southeast Asian country in training talent for developing artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure. Vietnam is considered a country with good education and infrastructure. The problem now is to improve skills and encourage Vietnamese experts and engineers abroad to return home and establish systems of 1 million AI experts. Vietnam also commits to creating favorable conditions for NVIDIA to operate in Vietnam. At the same time, NVIDIA was asked to promote research and implementations of semiconductor and AI investment projects in Vietnam. Coming up next on VTV News, obstacles in work permit procedures to be resolved. And Hanoi students preserve Quan Họ singing. The number of foreign workers working in Vietnam has been increasing. Besides preferential conditions, obstacles in terms of administrative procedures remain causing difficulties for businesses and foreign workers in the country. In order to relax regulations related to work permit conditions and application process, the Vietnamese government has issued Decree 70 amending and supplementing a number of articles of Decree 152 on foreign workers in Vietnam. However, some obstacles have not been fully addressed.
Robert has been living in Vietnam for 15 years. As a teacher manager for an international university, he often has to guarantee and carry out work permit procedures for other foreign colleagues.
The expats, it's just overwhelming. So there's always, the employers have to do a lot of the work, and it's often too overwhelming for the employers. So they'll hire companies to do that, hire agencies to deal with the visa and the work permit issues, because it is very complicated and it changes so often.
The language barrier is probably the biggest obstacle for foreign workers. Their understanding of legal regulations is also limited. So they often encounter some basic errors such as incorrect name format, inappropriate image upload, or problems with paying state fees. This leads to extended processing time, significantly affecting their schedule.
According to legal regulations, managers, executive directors, skilled workers, and experts are allowed to work in Vietnam. However, a number of issues still remains. For example, they have to notarize many types of documents. The procedures are handled by different agencies, while the process is still slow.
It's usually not coherent. It's almost like it changes from different kinds of visas or resident permits. So it will be very necessary if the Ministry of Public Security can communicate to the embassy the kind of procedures, documentation, requirements that these people need and the time frame they need to be able to fulfill that.
The fact that a lot of agencies act or work as the intermediaries between the ministry and the citizens or the applicants, and that may cause some difficulties in the whole procedure.
A lot of those documents have to be sent back to the consulate or the embassy of the foreign employee who wants to work in Vietnam in order to be certified and notarized. The work permit process has become so slow in certain cases that those executives have had to leave Vietnam and re-enter under another temporary permit while their work permits have been under process by the Vietnamese authorities.
Recently, the government assigned the Ministry of Labor, Invalids, and Social Affairs to review regulations to ensure simplification of the order and procedures for granting work permits to foreigners working in Vietnam. Accordingly, it will promote online application and post-inspection after work permits are approved. This is expected to create favorable conditions for not only foreign workers, but also organizations and businesses in general.
According to a report from the online travel service platform Agoda, the number of foreign visitors searching for information about tourism in Vietnam in 2023 has increased by nearly 300% compared to the same period last year. Among these visitors, South Korea has the highest number of searches, followed by the United States, Japan, Singapore, and Thailand. The representative of the platform also stated that the significant increase in travel searches related to Vietnam reflects the popularity and attractiveness of the country among international tourists. This rise can be attributed to convenient travel options, destinations' image promotion programs, relaxed visa policies, and attractive travel incentives. The international bicycle race One Track, Two Countries took place in Hồng Hà, China and Lao Cai, Vietnam on Sunday. The race started at Cultural Ethnic Group Square in Haikou, Yunnan, China. Over 200 cyclists from China and Vietnam participated in this cross-border event, which ran through both countries. The race aims to strengthen the close ties between the people of the two countries.
A total of 205 athletes took part in the race, with 98 being Vietnamese and 107 being Chinese. The athletes were divided into 5 groups, consisting of both males and females. The race featured a demanding 80-kilometer track, with cyclists covering 10 kilometers in China before completing the remaining distance in Vietnam.
The atmosphere is lively today as spectators cheer for the athletes from both China and Vietnam.
I can sense an incredibly exciting atmosphere today. I enjoy watching bicycle races because the athletes compete at high speeds, making it very captivating.
Chinese athletes with strong fitness and good tactics continued to dominate most of the racetrack. They won 4 out of 5 events for both males and females.
The athletes had the opportunity to interact with and enjoy the breathtaking landscapes that these regions boast.
The successful organization of this international bicycle race served as a bridge to deepen cooperation between the two nations in the fields of culture, sports, and tourism. It particularly promoted people-to-people exchanges between Vietnam's Lao Cai province and China's Yunnan province.
The Gong Culture Festival took place from November 11th to November 12th in Gia Lai province with the aim of promoting the local cultures and unique traditions of ethnic people. During the festival, a Bana family impressed visitors with an energetic performance featuring a mix of traditional musical instruments. Here, visitors could learn how the Bana make and play musical instruments while immersing themselves in the cheerful atmosphere.
These local artists are all the members of a Bonner family. Each member has their own place to shine. Despite his very young age, this little boy is very confident with his performance. He can play the traditional bamboo xylophone skillfully.
As I master musical instrumental playing, now I want to pass down my knowledge and skills to young generations.
The 12 members of this family can play all types of traditional musical instruments very well. Furthermore, they can make musical instruments with bamboo that can produce cheerful and majestic sounds.
My grandparents and parents taught me how to make traditional musical instruments. Now I want to teach my children and grandchildren how to make them.
Villagers are like skillful artists engaging both the mind and the eyes of visitors. While immersing themselves in instrument sounds, visitors could learn more about unique traditions and cultural values of the Bonner people.
The integrations of traditional art with major school subjects can not only cultivate more interest among students, but also nurture their love of Vietnamese cultural values. In order to preserve Vietnam's folk performing art, such as quan họ singing, a group of students in Hanoi created a website to archive, introduce, and make quan họ folk song more popular among young people.
Journey to the Cradle of Quan Ho Singing, a website created by a group of students in Col J Secondary School, provides information about Quan Ho singing and famous Quan Ho villages. The website features moving images, videos, games, and quizzes to draw people in. Its playable interactive content is fun and helpful for users, as people can learn more about Quan Ho singing.
We created this website in an attempt to promote and preserve Quan Ho singing with the use of information technology. Learning through this website, we hope other students will become more engaged in heritage education.
In this class, students share knowledge with one another. They're learning without teachers. The atmosphere is abuzz with excitement and surprises, as students exchange opinions.
Currently, the website is in Vietnamese and has English version. We'll translate the website to other languages such as Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, as we want to promote Vietnamese cultural heritage worldwide.
The website is very useful for students to learn history and geography. It also acts like a digital learning resource. Through this website, students are drawn in to learn more about history.
Young Vietnamese are seeking ways to raise people's awareness about cultural preservation. Preserving Vietnamese cultural heritage with the application of information technology is expected to make heritage education more accessible to students in schools.
Coming up next in our World News, the United Nations launches global roadmap to end hunger. And South Korea turns to matchmaking to boost low birth rates. The Food and Agriculture Organizations unveiled a global roadmap on Sunday to end hunger and all forms of malnutrition in line with the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. The global roadmap outlines various actions and milestones to transform food production in response to threats from the climate crisis and chronic hunger, while limiting the global temperature's rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The roadmap aims to reduce methane emissions from agri-food production and system by 25% by 2030 relative to 2020 levels before reaching carbon neutrality by 2035. Its long-term targets include transforming the sector into a net positive carbon sink by 2050, capturing 1.5 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions annually. Australia on Monday said it would tighten visa rules for international students and low-skilled workers that could halve the migrant intake over the next 2 years. Under the new policies, international students would need to secure high ratings on English tests, and there would be more scrutiny on a student's second visa applications that would prolong their stay. To get more highly skilled migrants into the country, the Australian government will establish a new specialist skills pathway to help businesses recruit people with specialized and unique skill sets. The pathway will provide a more certain processing time for temporary visas for skilled workers. Australia net immigration is expected to peak at a record 510,000 in 2022-2023. China has 1.64 million new energy vehicles in commercial operations, including about 540,000 buses, 300,000 taxis, and 800,000 urban delivery vans. China has increased charging facilities along expressway to meet soaring demand. A total of 20,000 charging piles for new energy vehicles was built in China Expressway service area as of the end of October, according to the Chinese Ministry of Transport. The charging piles had cover 49,000 parking spaces in more than 6,200 expressway service areas for passenger cars. China aims to master the core technologies of advanced autonomous driving and eventually put driverless vehicles on its roads. Commercial operations of driverless vehicle is being tested in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. The Transport Ministry set out 14 pilot tests for unmanned driving, focusing on applications such as road freight, urban travel services, logistic distributions, and port operations. South Korea's birth rate has dropped to an alarming new low as fertility continues a steady decline. The country's increasing number of delayed marriages is one of the biggest factors, and facing the issue, South Korean government has introduced matchmaking services to boost its critically low fertility rate.
Around 100 South Korean men and women gathered at a hotel near Seoul dressed in their best with name tags hanging on their clothes, hoping to find love. They were participants at a mass blind dating event hosted by Songnam City, an attempt by the local government to reverse a falling birth rate in the country.
I need to meet a good match first, and then I need to consider whether I have good circumstances for the baby. There are lots of things to do, so it's quite burdensome.
The participants, in their 20s and 30s, sat quietly next to one another until a relationship coach kick-started the event with a game of rock, paper, scissors, quickly filling the room with chatter and laughter. After 5 rounds, 198 out of 460 participants left the event as couples, where they agreed to exchange contact with a partner.
Songnam City is taking care of issues concerning newly married couples such as rental housing, housing supply, and their welfare.
When we expand the budget for policies that directly support pregnancy, child delivery, and parenting, we can expect to hear the cries of more babies in Korean society.
South Korea's fertility rate dropped to a record low of 0.78 last year, far below the average rate among countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. To encourage young Koreans to get married, the government has created opportunities for them to meet future spouses, such as volunteer meetings or cultural events supported by regional governments.
And now, as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download a mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.